Ladies and gents, Scotty Z here with the Awaken Freedom podcast. Very, very excited about this conversation with Belle Tozer of the Echo Chamber. Is where we met originally. I was interviewed on the Echo Chamber podcast, and Belle and I have got to know each other since then. This is going to be a very fascinating conversation, especially for the women out there. We're going to be taking this places that I am really interested to learn about. Even the intro off camera I was like, wow, I really want to know about this. And gentlemen, if you are listening to this, listen doubly as well, because if we can understand the power of a woman's womb, a woman's cycle, and all of the places that Belle is about to take us, our lives will absolutely transform, because I guarantee when there's harmony in your woman, in your family, there's harmony in your life. And that's what all of us want. So, ladies, this is going to be very eye-opening. Belle Tozer, the quantum creatrix, welcome to the podcast. Super stoked to have this conversation. Give us a bit of an introduction about yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Your uniqueness, and then let's jump into the conversation.
Wow, my name's Belle. Hello, everyone. I live on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. You've probably got people all over the world watching. I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I'm a shamanic midwife, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a surfer. I like to live life, and I live life my way. And I'm a big believer in you can create the life that you want for yourself through your thoughts and your choices, and you can live life your way, even if everyone else thinks that you're crazy. As long as you're living in alignment and you're doing what your life wants to do, I hold space for women in particular to get to that place within themselves.
I love that. You and I really connected. Both of our journeys have been similar, that over the last 20 years, you have traveled the world. You have lived every adventure that your heart desires. You've never fit into any box. Now having the little fella, and settling into the family life, you're realizing that the life that you've lived is not necessarily the normal life that most people have, and you're able to then hold space for others, and it's particularly women. What is the work that you're doing now for women?
Okay, so I've got a multifaceted thing that I do for women, but mostly it's holding space for women to birth the best version of themselves, to connect with their wild, innate, feminine wisdom. And the way that we do that, women, is through our womb space. We have this amazing, luscious, juicy, creative portal that is connected to sky, that is connected to earth, living inside of our body. And if we can connect into that lusciousness of our womb space, if we can really get to know our moon cycle intimately, we can live a life that's in alignment more than you could ever imagine. And one of the ways I teach women to do that is to start charting their moon cycle in accordance with the phases of the moon, because most women don't even know that they menstruate with the gravitational pull of the moon. And if I say to women, when do you ovulate? And they're like, I don't know. Let me check my app. And it's like, an app can never tell you when you ovulate, because it doesn't take in all of the little idiosyncrasies that happen through the months. So do you ovulate on a full moon? Do you ovulate on a new moon? Do you ovulate on a waxing moon? Do you ovulate on a waning moon? When do you menstruate? Most women don't know that. And when you can begin to learn these cycles, every phase of the moon has a different bit of information, a different bit of juiciness. So for example, if a woman is charting her cycle and she gets to know, 3 days before my moon time, I'm like really inward and I don't feel like going out anywhere. And she knows that over a period of months, and her husband and partner knows that. You don't plan parties, you don't plan get-togethers, you don't plan big launch events 3 days before your moon cycle, because it's when you're being called inward, right? That's an example of working with your moon cycle.
And how important is it for, I mean, that's a massive, that's how life is created in human life, right? It's through that ovulation, it's through that cleansing of the womb. But I'd agree with you that it seems that we're very disconnected from that. I don't know what's going on. I can tell when my wife's all pissed off and angry, and it's usually like, then a couple of days later, it's like, yeah, I'm on my cycle. It's like, okay, cool. Well, that's what was going on there. But maybe we got to get a chart and put it on the wall, and we can start mapping this out.
You absolutely got to get a chart, because people say, oh, my missus is psycho. And it's like, no, she's not psycho. She's cyclical. right?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
She's just cycling with the phases of her body. So if you think about bleeding, when a woman is bleeding, that is like the season of winter. You think about words that's death, decay, dropping away. You think about winter, and the opposite of that, when a woman is ovulating, that is her summertime. She is so expanded, and she is so vibrant, and she is like juicy and luscious. That's the summer of a woman's month. So each month, a woman cycles between summer, autumn, winter, spring, depending on the phase that she's in her moon cycle.
And there's different energies in each phase. Like we go play out in summer, whereas in winter we're more inward. And if we
That's
know
exactly
we're tapped
right.
into those seasons, because I think for all of us, and we want to talk about, you were talking off camera about the power of the womb and reconnecting the heart to the womb, which I'd never heard of before, and how that brings it. But starting with this, if I can work with, if I, being a man, working with my wife, is that going to help her to move through that more easily? Is it just going to create more harmony for us? Like, what's the purpose of me getting involved in even understanding that wisdom?
There will be no problems between you, because when you understand her moon cycle, her intuition, her moon cycle, whether you're aware of it or not, governs the entire energy that happens within your home on any given day of the month. So if you can get in unison with that energy, and you can begin to work with that energy that's available as a family, oh my God, the harmony between your relationship with your children, with your business projects, everything will expand.
It's that important.
Oh yeah, it's that important.
So are you saying that the cycle, the womb cycle, the menstruation cycle, is one of the most important governing factors of a woman's mood, energy, feeling? Is this sort of where you're going with
everything? It's everything, because it's the whole endocrine system which is involved in the menstrual cycle, which is dictated and governed by the moon. It is everything in a woman. Have you ever heard like people say when, oh, my wife went crazy when she went through menopause, right? Oh, she lost her shit. That's because her entire moon cycle is ending. And normally all of that energy that was going down to the womb space, going down to the ovaries, the reproductive, it goes up through the chakra system. Instead of going down to the reproductive, it moves up through the chakra into the pineal gland. And she has all of this power and all of this energy. So when a woman goes through menopause, everything that was okay before is no longer okay, because when a woman is in that menstruating cycle, she it's kind of like a veil of conformity descends upon a woman when she starts menstruating, and she puts other people ahead of herself. She puts her husband, her family, all of their needs ahead of theirs. When she stops menstruating, that energy goes back up, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. And all of a sudden it's like, what about me? What about my life? Which is why when a woman goes through menopause, she has like a second spring.
Wow. Okay. So as a guy who doesn't menstruate, I can comprehend what you're talking about. But as a woman, and a woman is obviously very tapped into her body and her cycles, are you feeling that, like, are you constantly in tune with your menstrual cycle? You know exactly what phase you're at. You know when you're ovulating, you know when you're about to menstruate. Like, are you noticing and connected to that feeling very deeply?
Oh yeah, every day. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly what's happening in my menstrual cycle. I know what the moon's doing, and trust me, I promise you,
against the moon, right? Okay.
Yes.
Because so not just you cycle, on the calendar, but based on the moon cycle.
No, so it's basing on the moon. So if a woman menstruates with, let's say there's 4 dominant moon cycles, right? So there's a red moon, a white moon, a purple moon, and a pink moon phase, right? So what that means is, are you ovulating with the full moon? That is a white moon cycle. If you ovulate with the full moon, that's a white moon cycle, right? And a woman who ovulates with the full moon, she's typically in a very mothering phase of her life. She could be mothering children, or she could be birthing projects or creation. She could be a painter. It could be art. This applies to women who have been through menopause as well. They are still governed by the energy of the moon. So then there's women who are on a red moon cycle, which means they ovulate with the new moon. These women are particularly being called very inward. They're on a deep spiritual journey. They're on a spiritual path, and usually they're mothering themselves, and they're in the underworld of their psyche, right? And a woman's menstrual phase changes. It can move around the moons, or it can stay on one exact moon, right?
Okay.
And then you can menstruate with the waxing moon or the waning moon, and that's the purple and the pink. So both of those come with their own gifts as well. It's like almost impossible to try and put into a little hour chat.
So the cycle is like, say if the woman's on the full moon cycle, it can gradually shift over to a purple and then to whatever the what was the new moon?
Each
Red.
moon,
Yep.
red. Each moon has different gifts in amongst your cycle, right? So there's this push pull. So if you are living in flow and harmony with your cycle and the moon, everything is fluid. If you're like out of sync, it's like this push pull. And you'll know what I'm talking about with your wife, right? When she's super in flow, she's in flow with her cycle. She might be doing it naturally without even realizing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like she's a little bit off. She's off that cycle.
How many women are actually tapped into this sort of cycle? Like, it's because I'm not really in those conversations, but like as a woman, do 80% of women know when they're cycling, when they're ovulating, when they're menstruating? Is it like 10% of women?
I would put it at 5% unless they're trying to get pregnant. Most women don't even think about it until they want to have a baby.
Wow.
And when they want to have a baby, it's like all of a sudden like, oh my God, when am I ovulating? I don't even know when I'm ovulating. And most women are using like
disconnected from the body.
A period app tracker, which a period app tracker, what it does normally is it'll say, okay, I'll ovulate on this day. Exactly 14 days I'll get my period, and then exactly 14 days again I will ovulate. And that's just simply not true, because depending on how much water you've drank, how stressed you are, what sort of family things you've got going on, a period tracker can never predict accurately when you're going to be ovulating. The only way you can know that is by following your body and connecting with the energy of your body.
Traditionally, do you feel that women were that connected to the body? They knew exactly, like I had a past partner who was very deeply connected with her body, and we'd be sitting together and she would say to me, I'm ovulating. I'm like, fucking what? She's like, it's just started right now. I can feel it. I'm like, you can feel an egg like leaving and then going down the, like, really?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah,
it has a sensation when you're really
incredible.
in tune with this. Yeah, it totally does.
But it's the only case that I've ever heard with that one partner of anyone like having that sort of connection to the body. This seems to be, like, if it really is what you're saying, which I'd agree, the most dominant aspect of a woman's body, of a woman's mood, of a woman's mental state, is that connection with what the moon's doing. It's called the moon cycle after all. Why are women also disconnected from it?
Because it's, this is a slippery slope to get down, but, women were like, we're like equal to men. We need to go out and work. Could you imagine being on your moon cycle, being totally inward, and you're a CEO of a bank and ringing up and saying, I can't work today, I've got my period, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine? This is what creates the disconnect. And the other major thing, I'm sorry for anyone who's listening, is the contraceptive pill shuts off 176 functions of the female body, right? Jesus. That is an extraordinary amount that disconnects us from our God spark, not communicating and connecting. It disconnects us from our heart, and it disconnects us from our creativity.
And what about after, because I know the contraceptive pill is massive in our society, especially, as we were younger, 20 years ago, I didn't know anyone that wasn't on the pill. It was sort of like the miracle drug, right? After people go off that, is there a chance that they can get that sensitivity back and that function back?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Cool. Over a period of time. And then they learn about natural conception and natural rhythm. When you know your body intimately, you know exactly when you can conceive and when you can't. You don't need to be on the pill. We've been so detached from this body knowing within ourselves.
All right, let's sell it to the ladies out there, okay? Because a lot of my audience is ladies. A lot of this world revolves around women. I know when my wife's miserable, I am miserable. When my wife is blooming and beautiful, and my whole life is amazing. So I know that the center of my family world is the moods of my wife. Let's sell it to the ladies. Why should they tap into that feeling of their body? And there's some obvious things, but I really want to hear it from you. What do they get if they go all? And then I want to look at what would they need to do to get it. But what's the benefit? What do they get if they actually do that inner work to be able to connect to that?
What is the benefit? Living a life that is so calm, living a life that is peaceful, living a life that is in flow and in alignment. Imagine having the confidence to say yes when you want to say yes and say no when you want to say no. Imagine being able to birth all of the projects that you've been wanting to birth, even if it's planting a veggie garden, right? When you are not connected to this element within yourself, you don't have the energetic space or frequency to fulfill these things, because you're always living in a push-pull situation, which is draining on the physical body.
Is that because you'll know when to act and when to hold back, or you're sort of like
Yes.
more in tune with the actual reality that we're living in, rather than just
Yes.
CEO bank style push Monday to Friday because the clock says 9?
For example, I say to women, like especially women who have pain, some women don't have pain with their moon cycle, others do, right? But even if you don't have pain, there is still an inward call, right? A slowing down. I say to women, when you've got your moon cycle, is it business as usual, or do you listen to the energy that's available and you slow down and you nourish yourself and your family? It could just be taking a night in and having a bath, right? Or are you like, bang, 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 I got my period, I'm bleeding, I'm going to chuck a Panadol and go to the gym and pump iron, right?
How many women are doing that? That's the scary thing.
So many women are doing that.
And all the way
So
from school, like, we have such a rigid society. It's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I don't give a shit what the moon's doing. And most people don't even know when it's full moon. Most people don't even have a clue. Like, there's this massive, like, abnormally big for a moon compared to any other planet. Like, this thing's so big that there's a good chance it's artificial, that it's not even a proper moon. Like, it's not. Why do we always see the one side of the moon? Is it really that, like, perfectly in sync that it spins so perfectly? Maybe. But maybe this is actually like something more than what we believe. But regardless, it impacts us. I feel the moon.
I went down that track. A lot of stuff came out about the moon. I think it was 2020. It's artificial. It's this. It's space. It's whatever. And I went down this really deep rabbit hole because I've created a lot of programs and a lot of things around women. And what I had to ask myself is, okay, what do I know to be true? What I know to be true is that my menstrual cycle is governed by the moon.
Yep.
The woman's menstrual cycle is inherently good. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing. Therefore, the moon is inherently good.
I'm
Right?
not saying it's against us, but it could be that it's not a rock spinning in space.
It's not real, or it's artificial, or it's man-made.
But that doesn't make it bad. But that doesn't make it bad.
No.
It could be like, and I think a lot of these stars, because, you know, around astrology, that they're actually like sending a signal into the human body and the world body, and they're like, you know, like lasers would code a CD, and then their CD reads a certain way, or, you know, like maybe these things are actually like coding energy.
There's no maybes about it. Of course they are. We've got quantum codes, we've got light codes coming in from the photon belt, hitting the human body, which is creating this expansion of consciousness that's currently sweeping across the globe.
100%. And we've got this moon that is, again, it's massive. That thing is huge, and it's right there. But most people don't even realize the difference between, you know, a lunatic time, because at the full moon, people would go crazy. That energy is so intense. And especially, it sounds like for a woman, because you have the moon cycle that literally makes your body bleed. Like you're changing cells in your body based on that. And yet most people, you're saying 5% of people would even have any connection to it. How do we get this back into our natural consciousness? Is that sort of the work you're doing? Trying to like, hey, ladies, wake up. This moon, the cycle, reconnect, be aware.
Well, we have conversations for starters. We have these kinds of conversations, which no man ever has. So I applaud you. It's absolutely wonderful.
I like it. I'm really interested.
You're even willing to have this conversation because, for example, if one of you know, my husband's friends comes over and I'm not feeling very well, and he's like, "Why are you not well today, Bella?" The normal person would say, "I've got a headache," and I say, "Oh, I'm on my moon cycle." Right?
Well, you can't say that.
It's so frowned upon in humanity that people don't even talk about it. So talking about it, for starters, is where it starts. Cool. And then beginning to remove the shame. There's so much shame and dogma around the moon cycle. It's just like they want to pretend it doesn't exist, that it's invisible. That's the first step, right?
We're being conditioned to be more artificial and less natural. There's nothing more natural than that cycle. The moon cycle every 28 days, right? And then the woman connected with that. So I agree with you. We've got to get it back into being an acceptable subject. because we've only got an hour, I'm going to leave that for a second and then talk about, so how does a woman now get into being in rhythm with not only, again, her cycle, that she's knowing when she's ovulating and when the menstruation is happening, which maybe more women know when the menstruation's happening because, you know, it's something I've got to deal with, which seems to be the consciousness. But how do they then start to notice and align? Like, again, you talked about apps, but you talked about a chart on the wall. Like,
Okay.
what can women do?
So the number one way is old school, old fashioned paper, pen, and charting. You know, I'll link it in this if you want. I've got a moon charting video that I created with a little PDF paper, so I can link that up for anyone.
We'll put it in the
interested.
show notes.
Yeah, so it's just a download video. It's about 20 minutes where I describe all of this. I go into depth with all of the different cycles if anyone's interested. Great. And charting your cycle in accordance with where the moon is. So it's a little chart. What day? So a moon cycle is the first day of your cycle, is the first day you bleed, right? So then you chart around, you just make a couple of comments like happy, sad, you know, inward today, whatever. And over a month, 2 months, 3 months, trust me, you will begin to see a patterns that you wondered how you didn't notice them before. Patterns will emerge, and they will emerge very quickly once you start charting this on paper, bringing your intention to it.
So at the same time in each cycle, you'll naturally be going through similar emotions, and then you can see that, so that you can look into the future, because it's only 28 days. I mean, it's not the hardest. There is patterns, very cyclical,
and
regular
as patterns. A family, you can look at the calendar,
put it on the wall.
That's right. You can put it on the wall,
right?
And you can say, oh yeah, let's just have a quiet weekend in this weekend, or let's plan our big, you know, family events. That you can trust me. Her menstrual cycle rules your whole house.
I don't doubt it. And I can look ahead. Okay, so Tuesday next week, I'm getting some. Hey, love, I'm taking you to dinner next Tuesday. Oh, but tomorrow I've got to disappear for a couple of days. I got to go, you know, work 12 hours a day. See you later. That'd be perfect. And again, so you're talking about that would then bring joy and happiness to the woman, but then also, again, we talked about the center of the family.
Yeah.
Ladies, please, if you can find a way and we'll link in the show notes. If you head to scottyz.com, you'll search for Bella. I'll also put the links if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Go and have a listen to what Bella's got to say here, because you know, and you're saying most men won't talk about this. I want to talk about everything that can make this world a better place. And if it is getting back in harmony with your own body, a woman getting back in harmony with who she is in relationship to the entire reality that we live in, and then us fellas, we came from that womb. I got here because of a womb. I got here because of a moon cycle, right? I wouldn't be alive otherwise. If we can start to honor that again and really make that a central focus, imagine the harmony that we can have with each other. I could avoid a lot of arguments. That'd be a great thing if my wife was watching.
Well, what maybe is exciting is that not only were you in your mother's womb, you were in your grandmother's womb for 5 months.
So there's eggs in the fetus?
Yep. So when a fetus is 4 months old, she already has all of her eggs for her whole entire life. So as an oocyte, so at a cellular molecular level, you spent 5 months in your grandmother's womb.
Jesus. And
you experienced your mother's the rest of your mother's pregnancy, and you experienced the birth. That's why you carry the cellular DNA, and that's how things are passed down ancestrally through the red thread, which is the female line, and the white thread, which is the male ancestral line.
That's incredible. We spoke about connecting the heart back to the womb and what this can do for a woman. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you connect a heart to a womb? They seem to be a little bit far away, obviously energetically, but what does that mean, and what's that all about?
So it's about disconnecting. So we're disconnected from the womb space, which makes us disconnected from the heart space. It creates energetic armor around our heart. So when we bring our energy back into our womb, when we connect to our womb, most women don't even do that. Like if you were to put your hand on your womb and bring your focus down to your womb space, for a lot of women, the energy feels cold because there's nothing circulating in there. She's so busy doing, giving, whatever. She's not nourishing that sacred bowl. So once she begins to nourish that sacred bowl by doing what she loves, right? Movement, creating joy, circulating fresh energy, that will naturally bring the warmth back into the womb, which will then create safety with the heart, which will then melt the armor that is around the heart space, because she moves into trust with her body.
And to get to that trust in the heart space, to that connection with the heart space, you're saying for a woman, it's by coming into connection and relationship with the womb to be able to move into that relationship?
Yes. And it's also, I mean, it's multidimensional, but it's also how many women are disconnected from that space. Therefore, they shut down sexually in marriages and long relationships. You know, that doesn't happen in every relationship, but it happens in many. And then if a woman's just taken one for the team and having sex when she doesn't want to, then that's creating more disharmony and more disconnection in her body. It just is a cycle, a vicious cycle that perpetuates over and over again.
So it's about respecting your own body and your womb. And again, I keep coming back to this idea of actually knowing what is going on inside your body, right?
Yeah.
Like knowing how you feel, knowing this, and again, this connection to the moon, which we know impacts the world in such a massive way. Yeah, it's beautiful. So how does this all lead to be able to create and be able to have the energy of creation? Because that is creation. The womb is creation. But we are creators. We are manifesting life in this reality. So if a woman was to get in tune with her body, she was to get that relationship with the womb, connecting into the heart, how does that then open, and what does it look like for them to be able to create from that space?
Oh, you know what? It's when a woman is connected to that area, when she is connected, her desire to create becomes effortless, and it just comes. It's a natural progression of being connected, right? It's a natural progression of being connected to her womb space. She all of a sudden wants to create. And for some women, creating can be making a beautiful home. For other women, it's cooking. For other women, it's getting into golf. For other women, it's being a surfer. It's what it looks like to you, right? It's different for everyone.
Creation we see a lot in this reality as a masculine trait. You know, the men are the builders. The men are going to get out there and push and toil and struggle through and eventually build the castle of creation. For a woman, though, that creation you're talking about going inward and receiving, you spoke about the bowl. Are you saying then if a woman can tap into that, potentially they don't have to compete on the men's circuit? They don't have to create in that masculine way of competition and struggling through, like men actually thrive on. Is that sort of where you're going with that? There's a different way of creation for women?
Well, for women and for men too, actually, the feminine is the receptor of creativity. So when a woman is fully in her feminine, she's fully in her womb space, she's able to receive the information, the energy, the downloads, whatever you want to call it. She's able to receive the inspiration for creation, but she still needs her masculine to execute those creations, but it's done in a really soft way. In when it feels aligned, it will feel expansive. When it's time to execute and step into the masculine, it feels effortless. There's no push pull and there's no competition.
In the book Think and Grow Rich, they talk about this sexual connection, because obviously that book was written in the 40s or 50s and it was all about men. You know, it was all about men in business, men in creating and everything. So it's very men focused. But they talk about, and I see this, when a man finds that woman and has that relationship, that deep loving relationship with a woman, there's something that happens. Like my life when I met my wife went from cruising, traveling, just doing the thing to like, whoop, all of a sudden I went from earning very little to like multiple six figures within 12 months. And all of a sudden I had this drive and this desire in my life that in Think and Grow Rich, it talks about because of the woman. Is that something that you can see? Like if a woman is that feminine and that connected to their body, will that also, I'm looking for what do we get? What do the men get? Does that also then empower us as fellas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because a woman that's in this space is irresistible and her man wants to provide for her.
Yeah.
Right. He wants to nourish her. He wants to nourish the family unit because he's being nourished in a way you couldn't possibly imagine.
And I feel that. I feel that in my relationship. I did mention that. And apologies, I was showing off to you before about my little light. It's got no battery. So now it's all dark in here. I'm slowly getting darker. It's not, the sun is not setting. It's the middle of the day here in Russia. But yeah, I actually, as I was starting to say, when my wife is, when her and I are not aligned, And it happens, and maybe because she's not connected to a cycle and I'm not connected to the cycle, and I'm pushing buttons at a time I should just be leaving it alone. That's probably a big part of it. I'm, trying to push a point when if I could just look at the wall and be like, hold it for 2 days, Scotty. bring up this point in 2 days and it will land right now. Fucking keep your mouth shut. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
Hello. Just hang on a second. Sorry, everyone.
Do your thing. Well, I'll chant on mine for a second. So this is exactly what I've noticed is when me and my wife are in harmony, God, I feel unstoppable. I want to get out there. I want to create. I've got a lot of energy. I want to connect with people. When my wife and I are not in harmony, when we're having an argument or there's some weird energy or whatever, I feel deflated. Like I don't have energy to create. I don't have energy to provide. I just couldn't be bothered. And that can go for a while sometimes, like weeks even. If me and my wife are having, you sometimes get that niggling thing and there's nothing really wrong, but although you forgot to close the toilet seat, or I always close the toilet seat, by the way. I don't know, I do most of that, but anything, little things happen and we're at each other. And it's just this undercurrent of tension. I feel terrible. I'm talking about, Belle, when my wife and I aren't connected. I feel terrible. If we have disharmony, I've got no energy to create. When my wife and I are buzzing and we are just on fire together, you can't stop me. So I would love to see that in my relationship. And I'm probably going to send to this podcast and say, darling, how about we have a look at you, and I'll support you. Let's put it on the fridge and let's have a look at you tuning into your moon cycle connected to the moon, and then look for the patterns. I'll also have a little chart and notice, yep, she's being bitchy, she's being amazing. Yep, this is great. And I can start to give my feedback as well.
It'd be an interesting case study and see, right? And see.
Mate, yeah. I want the best for us. I want the best for her, and I don't want to, if something has to be said, it has to be said. But if I know now it's not the right time to say it, because I don't know what's going on inside. Sometimes she doesn't even know what's going on inside, I'm sure of it. But if we can both be connected there, and I can, again, look at it and say, okay, cool, leave it, Scotty. Don't push the buttons. It's not that big a deal right now. She's got some stuff going on. Wait till next week, and then we can discuss that. That's going to raise the vibration of our relationship.
And, with our children, and some people might think that this is TMI, but I'm going to share it. I've never hidden this from my son. I always talk to my son. He's almost 3 years old. And, last week I was like being a little bit grumpy, and he says, oh, mama, you're going to be bleeding from your vagina. He knew. And he's 3 years old. He's 3. God. He's like, oh, you're going to be bleeding from your vagina. And he goes to a Montessori school a couple of days a week. And I got pulled aside by the teacher last week, and she was being crabby. And he said to the teacher, are you bleeding from your vagina? So we got to well, just because people are grumpy doesn't mean they're bleeding from their vagina. Yeah. But he's learning it from a young age, right?
And again, I think that we need to bring this back into consciousness. It needs to be spoken about. And you say, oh, I'm one of the only guys that will have the conversation. Guys, step up. This is not just a woman's thing that we have to pass it off and be like, I can sort your shit out. Come on, come back and see me once you're over your period or whatever, which there's such this brash attitude towards it in the male psyche. We've got to be taking responsibility for that. I spend a lot of time with a woman, aka my wife, and I spend a lot of time working with women in my business and in my life. If we can get this out there and actually be part of common knowledge again, without it being a taboo subject or a dirty subject or anything like that, I can imagine the harmony that can come from that.
Well, if you look back in tribal days before electricity, all women menstruated and ovulated at the exact same time before electricity was invented. And the women actually used to go off because a woman is most psychic. She's most tapped into information that comes from the universe while she's bleeding. It's when she's most psychic. It's when she's in her wise woman archetype. So you've got maiden, mother, Marga, crone, right? She's in crone archetype. She receives all of her insights. So in tribes, in tribes before, the women would all go off, they would menstruate together, and then they would come back and they would give all of the wisdom and the insight to the tribe, who would sit around and hear everything that they had to say. The women's intuition is the nucleus of the tribe, of the family, of the planet.
Especially when that's a collective intuition, because you're all ovulating at the same time. You're
Yes.
syncing up the cycle of the power of the moon. You're syncing up together to harness that power for the benefit of the whole.
I mean, you ask any woman here that they'll say when they lived with girlfriends, when they've gone traveling and all women live together, their cycles all sync up together.
Yeah.
Women that live in the same house.
Yeah. I mean, there's something very powerful about that. And to increase that, because I imagine like intuition, it's like a receiving rod, you know, like, and even the hair on the head is part of intuition, right? When you've got a lot of those receiving rods together, you've got a stronger signal coming through. So if all of these women are opening at the same time, menstruation at the same time, opening, there's more of them to bring in that energy. I mean, we can get back to that, and potentially at that time, the men can tap into that intuition at a greater rate as well, because it's in the collective psyche of the tribe.
Mm.
And that's pretty
Juicy,
cool.
juicy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you something that you teach and you speak about is, you've got a little 3-year-old, I got a 4-year-old, these star babies, I think you call them. What is, so we're going in this direction. What is a star baby? What is going on with these kids today? And what's our role in the whole process?
Well, a star baby, I particularly work with the star babies coming in from the quantum realm. And what I mean by that is babies who have heard the call that the earth is going through a great awakening. This planet is going through awakening. We are moving in consciousness, which means the planet is evolving, the vibration is increasing. These souls that come from 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th dimension, we're currently in 3D reality, third dimensional frequency, moving into 5D frequency. These souls that are coming from other planets, other star systems, other galaxies, they're coming to the earth with a consciousness that is far beyond one that we could ever imagine, to hold space, to support humanity to rise in consciousness. So basically they are the cavalry of light that are ascending on, you know, they're coming down to planet Earth to help in the awakening of humanity.
Right.
And
I'm going to try and get a light on this.
all right.
We were once called indigo children. What has the indigo child got to do with this and star babies?
Well, an indigo child, a Blu-ray, you know, you would have heard maybe diamond children, rainbow children. Yep. They were all the early pioneers of these quantum cells coming in. So we are star seeds. We absolutely are. And we volunteered to come first, to come to the planet, to awaken on the planet so that we could then hold the vibration and parent these quantum souls. The thing about what's different to us, to them, we came in with a much lower level of consciousness, and usually for most of us there was a catalyst to awakening. We spent a lot of time completely asleep, even though we were rebels, even though we did things differently, we were asleep, and we came in and there was a catalyst that acted as our awakening. These children aren't coming in asleep. They're already coming in fully tapped in. They're already coming in with their 10 junk strands of DNA activated. They're coming in so that they can anchor the light codes and the frequencies that are coming from the photon belt, so that then everywhere they go, everywhere they walk, their energy is rippling and hitting people. Your son, wherever he goes, his energy is hitting people, and he's activating them into awakening.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we came as like the last through the dense time.
Yeah.
But we had to have, we're the bridge, right? We're the bridge. And now the ones that we're bringing in, they're already activated. They're ready to spread that wisdom. Yeah. You know, cellular, the energetic wisdom, not even just the words they speak, but that wisdom everywhere they go. So in your work, are you seeing this as like the majority of kids that are coming through? Is this a lot of people, a lot of like new babies? Are these star babies? And how do you sort of tell?
Well, I only see star babies. I'm not seeing the women who are bringing babies that aren't star babies, right? So yes, the ones that I see are star babies, but there's definitely a pattern and a theme. There's babies that are coming in to work with technology that has not yet been doesn't exist on planet Earth. So there really are no words. They're coming in to work with this new technology. There's other babies that are coming in to work with healing technologies that we've never seen before. There's other ones that are coming in to work with quantum materials that is going to build the new structures on Earth. These are babies that are just like what they're going to create on this earth is so damn exciting. And I hear so many people say, I would never bring a child into this world. It's like, you don't get it. These children are the world. They're the ones that are going to create the new heaven on earth that hopefully we'll see in our lifetime.
It's their energetic vibration that is the antidote to the negativity that's happening right now.
Yes.
We need these children to come through.
Yes. And there's 333 souls that I've come across that are coming in from a planet that has water that's a much lighter frequency to what we have on planet Earth. So all of these babies are going to live by the ocean. They're going to choose parents that live by lakes, rivers, oceans, and their energy is going to crystalline and uplift the density of the water on this planet. There's children that are coming in with sun codes to work on the soil. I mean, they're all doing different things. So if you're being called to live in a place where you've never lived before, for example, Russia, your soul has called you there, your babies have called you there, they have work to do on that land.
Yeah. That's the craziest, trippiest thing for me right now. Like if somebody had told me a few years ago, even when I met my wife 5 years ago, straight up I said, I don't want to live in Russia. I lived in Canada. It was freezing cold. I hate the winter. I grew up in far north Queensland, Australia, in the jungle. I'm not interested. 18 months ago, I said to my wife, come on, let's go to Russia. It's like, what the fuck? I wouldn't choose to be here, yet I'm trusting that the path is the perfect path for me, that all of this is meant to be. And, you know, the challenges are the challenges. There's challenges anywhere you live. Doesn't matter. But I agree with you. The work, it's calling us. This land is calling us. My children must be here. We must grow here for some reason, and I don't know why. What do you see the future? You seem to be like me. You're a natural optimist, right? But you got some, you tapped in, you're 336 souls from some planet up there. I'd love to understand how you recognize all of that. But what do you see is happening right now? Because a lot of people want to say that the world is being destroyed and it's getting worse. And I don't agree with that. I think this is the greatest time in history and there's a massive transformation coming and there's an Eden on the other side. But what do you reckon's going on?
Well, the world is being destroyed. The world as we know it is breaking down. The fabric of that reality is breaking down to make way for a new reality. What we're seeing is the death rattle of the 3D paradigm, gripping on for dear life, hanging on, but it's going down. And all of these structures have to go. Big Pharma's going to go. The schooling system's going to go. All of the banking system's going to go. And they're going to be replaced by something better, right? Something amazing. This is happening, people. Make no mistake, this is happening. Yeah. We all of these light workers, souls, warriors, sacred warriors, we didn't come to planet Earth so that we could be led into dictatorship. We didn't come to planet Earth to become slaves. We came to this slave planet to awaken the beings on this planet. That's what we signed up for.
How many of us are there? Is this a minority? Is this an awakening majority? Like what's going on in the world here?
I have no idea, but what I do know is that say? In the millions, definitely not billions.
Hundreds of millions.
But in the millions, okay. Yeah. There's millions of light workers' souls, and you know there's beings coming in from all different planets. There's beings coming from Arcturus. There's beings coming from Sirius. There's the Lyrans. There's the Andromedans. There's so many beings ascending on the Earth. It is like people are like chomping at the bit to come here. We have got front row seats to the greatest show in the goddamn galaxy. So, you know, own your spot here. And if you're on the planet right now and you're watching this right now, you've earned your right to be here on planet Earth. And you signed up for this. And if you could see your intergalactic resume, you would never doubt yourself, right? You are a warrior to the core. And you signed up to be here to serve in the awakening of humanity. And it doesn't have to look like, you know, it doesn't have to be some huge big role. You don't have to be a Donald Trump you don't have to be playing this giant role. It's like, how are you serving your community? How are you serving your family? Every one of us is needed to tip the scales in this awakening.
Yeah, that's awesome. The people that are watching this, and I've been doing the same mission here for 17 years. I've been making videos, right? Even longer, I think. However long it's been, a long time. The people that I connect with, the people, and probably like you with the echo chamber as well, there is this feeling of it's difficult, but I'm finding a way. I'm here for a reason. I'm here at this time. It's exciting to know that so many of us are coming to this planet. And I love that you're saying like people are lining up to get here at this time.
Oh yeah, they are absolutely lining up. And what I'm finding is like there's star babies that like they're sort of like reserves. You know, they're like chomping at the bit to get here, but they haven't like got their spot yet, and they're at like the back of the list, and they're just like, you don't want to go, bro. I'm coming. You know, and they're like, you know, like yeah, there are so many quantum cells that are dying to be here, because to be able to come here and experience this awakening, this is going to be the most talked about 10-year period in history, 2020 to 2030 ever in the history of humanity.
So that's your timeline, because that's what the WEF is talking about. WF is 2030, Great Reset and all of that. And I figured that they've got that there for a reason. Gene keys. Have you seen Gene Keys, which spun off from Human Design? Richard Rudd is talking about 2027 is the moment where we move into the 55th gene key, which is awakening freedom. So we move into a state of freedom, which is actually my life purpose in gene keys. Mine is the 55th gene key, which is crazy. It's what I'm living in my life. So 2027, 2030. There's another guy that I follow, Archaics, Jason on Archaics. You got to check him out on YouTube. He reckons this is all a simulation and that we're in the midst of a simulation reset on 2040. Or is it 2042? 2040, I think it is. Yeah, 2040. Then there's a Nemesis X on 2042, but some massive reset in 2040. But what's your feeling? Like, we're definitely in the Great Awakening. This tidal wave is peaking. It's gonna crash. Like, things are gonna change. Do you reckon by 2030, what sort of world do you think we're going to live in by 2030?
I mean, we can never know for certain because it's multidimensional consciousness, right? Timelines are shifting and they are changing. Like, I don't know if any of you guys who are listening have experienced time jumps. They are happening, right?
What's a time jump?
So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're looking everywhere for your keys and you can't find them, right? You're looking for your car keys. This is a simple one, right? You're looking for your car keys, you can't find them, you look everywhere, you look on the kitchen bench is totally bare, right? You look, you go out, you go to the toilet, you come back and your car keys are just sitting on the kitchen bench, right? That's a time jump. You jumped frequency, right? So these are happening all the time. Another example of a time jump could be, I don't know if you've experienced this yet, and if you haven't, it's probably going to start happening really soon. You'll look at the clock, it's 11:11, right? You'll have a conversation with someone that'll be like an hour, and then you'll look at the clock and it'll be 11:13. It's like, oh, that conversation apparently was only 2 minutes. Or the flip side of that is you'll talk for a couple of minutes and you will lose an hour. Right? These are time jumps. This is the reality is shifting and moving underneath our feet. So we can never know for certain how long this is going to take. But by 2030, I think the banking system will be completely transformed. I think the schooling system will be completely transformed. And I think the medical system will be completely transformed. And that's going to ripple out to a lot of other places.
And you're talking about the current control systems, they will collapse.
Yes.
So do you believe by 2030, they will actually have been collapse or in the process of collapsing while this new
I do.
harmonious way? Yeah, okay. So you think it's going to be, because if the system is going to collapse in, what are we talking, 8 years? These are thousands of years old. The banking system, thousands, education system, thousands of years old, and it's been getting to this point. What sort of chaos would we have to go through in 8 years in order for that change to happen?
Oh, it's going to be a rocky road, but that's what we've signed up for. That's why we're here. And that's why these shows are so important. And that's why we have to create our tribes in our communities, because there's going to probably be a lot of loss of life through people, not feeling stable, right? So we need to create roots and we need to have our stability. Even if it's a moving stability, we need to have our community to support each other, to lean on each other during this time. And for those of us who are awake to the agenda, that know what's happening, that came to the earth for this time. I was born for this time. You were born for this time. It is our duty to hold our brothers and sisters who perhaps didn't know that they haven't wake up to it yet.
So you see, it's going to be pretty difficult. In order to grow, we have to go through some sort of a challenge. It's how life works, right? The coming hardships seem to be necessary for our growth. And I guess, if anything, I would add a piece to say, I would encourage you, if you are going through hard times now or in the near future, rather than shutting down to those hard times, it's an opportunity for us to open up in trust through those hard times. Use it as the spiritual awakening rather than fighting against it. And it's all so difficult, I can't control it. Know that it's there because you were born for this. Know that it's there to help you, to help us. And the old saying, this too shall pass, right? This too shall pass. So wherever you are right now, because we know that the world is difficult, and I agree that it is going to get more difficult. We just geopolitically we look at it, and it's pretty, the writing's on the wall, right? Like it's potentially going to be hard. You were born for this. You're strong enough. You will get through this as long as you do not crumble under the weight of the weight. As long as you're willing to keep standing up and keep opening up, you will get through this. We do it together, like we talked about with the women coming together to channel intuition, right? We do it as a community because the more of us that are united, channeling these new frequencies, the stronger the signal is. If there's a tree in the forest that starts to fall, all the other trees are holding its weight in the wind. If that same tree is by itself, the wind will blow it over. Be the forest. Be in the forest amongst others in your community. Digital is great, but obviously in reality, wherever you are in the world, find your community. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I would absolutely agree with that sentiment, and be willing to, let people go temporarily who don't think and feel the same way you do. It's okay. People jump on the train, they jump off the train. And for us, we need to hold our vibration. And, I don't believe in this, oh, you got to raise your vibration. For me, it's about just like not lowering yourself to someone else's standard. Like, for example, if someone said to you, oh, what do you think about COVID? And you just dumbed down what you truly thought because you didn't want to offend or hurt their feelings. No, we have to stand in our sovereignty, and people have to rise to meet us. That's how we create the ripple effect that changes the world. It's just holding ourselves in our sovereignty, with kindness as much as possible.
And that'll raise the standards of those who are around us. Either they will leave or they will realize.
Or they'll realize they want to come with you, right? We've got to hold ourselves. It's like, for example, if you want to charge something for your work, right? Let's say you want to do a session, your session's for $200 and someone says, oh, can you do it for 120? And you like lower yourself to them. It's like, actually, no, you have to meet me at my vibration. And if you don't, and you don't want to, that's okay. Right. But you got to rise to me. I'm not coming down to you.
Yeah. And I'm here to help you come up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, we've only got probably about another 5 minutes. Is there anywhere you want to take this? Any wisdom you want to drop before we wrap?
Yes, I just want to talk about the star babies for a moment. For anyone that wants to have a baby, that's calling in a baby, that feels resonating for this, just remember that your baby is already communicating with you. And if you're yearning for a baby, there is a baby yearning for you. It's never a one-way street, right? So just look out for the signs and the synchronicities. Your baby is already talking to you. You have a quantum being, a guide. Your baby is acting as a spirit guide for you. They are guiding your life without you even knowing it, right? So open your eyes to the signs, and they come in so many different ways. And if you think, oh, I wonder if that was a sign for my baby, it was a sign. It doesn't have to mean anything to anyone else. It just has to mean something to you. Pay attention to the songs on the radio. Pay attention to the stickers on cars. Pay attention to billboards. There's signs everywhere that they're coming.
Pay attention when Scotty Z invites you to meet Belle Tozer, and she's living proof. I mean, you can tell the story. If you go and have a listen, 8 years in the making to call in your star baby, the little boy that you've got now, right?
Yeah.
You were able to become the woman, the womb with the man, right? To be able to bring that life in. So you've walked this path, you're living this path. You're obviously very connected to who you are as a woman, to your own body, to your own cycles. So I feel, ladies, if you are out there, and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, and if you like because my wife and I are calling you now, next star baby as well, little daughter, she's there. I can feel it. She's coming.
See, the fact that there's a daughter, you're already communicating with your star baby, right?
I can feel her. She came to me in an ayahuasca ceremony. I even know her name.
There you go. Beautiful. Yeah. See, that's star baby communication, right? Yeah. This is spirit-led conception, which is very different to any other kind of conception. It's a different kind of conception. And 30 years from now, everyone will be communicating with their baby and calling them in, right?
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. So I'd say head over and connect with Belle. Go and have a listen to what she's got to say. Where would people learn more about your work? Where can we connect with you?
I have a podcast called Generation Wild Woman. You can find that on Spotify, or you can check out my website, surfthewildwoman.com.
Love it.
Find everything you need. Yeah.
We'll link to all of that in the show notes as well. Belle Tozer, you're awesome. You got an energy about you. I want to do this again and dive deeper. I really am interested in understanding this whole quantum world that you keep connecting to and sharing about, and where you're sort of getting a lot of your guidance and wisdom from. I think that's going to be a conversation. This was mostly about femininity and women and that connection. And I'm serious about, I want to dive further into that conversation and help that become more mainstream too. Selfishly, because I feel my relationships with women will get easier, right? And then as a collective, we can start to power up rather than fighting against me and my wife. Hello, I want that on the board. I want to know when. That we can start. So let's have another conversation about that too. But otherwise, check the show notes, guys. Head over to scottyz.com. You'll find Belle Tozer there and all of those linked. surfthewildwoman.com. Go and check her out there. And guys, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Please leave a review wherever you're catching this, be it on YouTube, on the podcast, even on Facebook. Leave a review, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We want to keep bringing these. If I'm the only guy going to talk about this stuff, I got to keep talking about this stuff, right, Belle?
I got to say, you are our legend, Scotty. Very, very few men will have this conversation.
I'll have conversations about everything. I've got a very curious mind, and I know who I am, so I've got nothing to fear. But I'm very keen to learn
Well, thank
more.
you for having me, everyone.
Thanks, Belle. Have fun,
Bye.
and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.
Bye.